Hey guys, what's up? Sean here, and today we're doing some UFC 3 beta gameplay. This was the first decision I was able to get online, so I went with this one because it's no longer of the, matches or whatever. But, yeah, so some basic thoughts. I've played probably about an hour now, a little bit offline to try and sort of figure out the controls, and then I hopped online because fuck it, basically. I think it's an improvement over last year or 2 years ago, whatever it is, UFC 2. In a lot of ways, obviously an improvement over the first one because the first one's not that great, but some places seem to have gone backwards, especially in terms of the knockout animations and the options within those. They definitely seem to have gone the wrong direction for some reason, which is a little bit frustrating. I have found still that when I have somebody rocked, I don't always feel like the game is giving me the tools to, capitalize on that. I feel like rocked people have too much of an ability to just cover their head and back up. And obviously when I'm rocked, I'm guilty of the same thing, but it just feels like, like, I don't know if it's this fight or what fight, but I throw a Superman punch and I get head kicked and I get rocked off that, obviously, but instead of that being, like, really bad for me, it's just like, alright, I'll just cover my head and back up. No big deal. And then they have this new animation where you get, knocked down, but you don't stay down, like, you immediately, like, scoot back and get up. And, well, that's fine, because that's obviously a, realistic animation. I'm not sure that I haven't found at least a way as the offensive person in that situation to attack them while they're, scooting backwards. Maybe you can, like, shoot for a takedown or something and land on top of them, or I don't know, maybe there is something you can do, but I found that in those situations, people are, like, they usually get up and they're fine, but they're, like, invulnerable to, like, what just happened to them. It's almost... And it happens a lot. That's the only thing. Like, if it didn't happen that frequently, then it wouldn't be that bad. Like, it's not, every time you get knocked down, you're not immediately, like, pounced on and dead, especially in those scenarios where you're still conscious. But it's like, it happens so frequently, and I'm sick, sorry, so if I cough repeatedly, my bad. But it's just, you see the same animation over and over and over again in the same fight. Like, some of my fights have had 8, 9, 10 knockdowns, so it's like, Jesus, like... Alright. I get that, we're trying to make it fun and whatever. We don't want everyone going 30-27, 30-27, 30-27, but at the same time, there are definitely situations where you're like, well, that was lackluster. But in other areas, things have improved. Like, obviously, the movement with the striking, I think it's much better. I'm able to... First, I mean, I am a little bit stuck in a habit of just double jabbing people a lot right now, but... There have been plenty of fights where I've been able to actually execute what I meant to execute. So what I mean by that is, like, a lot of times in past games, I would be like, I want to throw my rear cross into a lead hook and moving forward. And that wasn't possible before. It clunked up in a way that didn't work. But now, it definitely is possible, and I actually like having my hook modifier on a button rather than on the stick, because I always would screw that up. Like, I can never throw the strike I intended to with the stick. Now, that being said, and I don't care so much about this, because I plan to play a fair bit of the game and get okay at it, but I think they did complicate the controls in a serious way, to the point where I don't know how pick-up-and-play friendly this is. Now, obviously, you and your friend can just do this, where you just throw fucking straights and crosses at each other, but they did kind of make it a lot more difficult to throw these spinning attacks and the, the fun stuff, which I'm okay with, because I thought the other games were way too spammy with that shit, but at the same time, for casual players, I think that could be kind of a negative, because I think a lot of people that I saw pick up this game, who I know not to be major martial arts fans, but who, maybe watched some UFC events in their life or just thought, like, hey, that knockout looked crazy, Might be disappointed if they pick this one up, because it's just like so much harder to, you have to like memorize like which fucking 7 buttons you have to hold down to throw a spinning back fist or something, and it's like a little bit frustrating in that sense. I understand like there's not much they can do, in the sense that there's only so many buttons on the controller and there's only so many ways that people can physically be pressing them at the same time, but it is a little bit unfortunate that some of the stuff, especially like Ferguson here, his standing elbows, like I was a real big fan of those in the past game, and like in this one I figured out how to throw just a standard elbow normally, but you know, the elbow that comes, you know, straight up in the air and like all those, I have not really nailed down exactly how I'm supposed to be doing that. Like I've looked in the menu, but, and I get like there are buttons to press, but like I can throw that one, that like little short straight elbow, but the other ones, it just seems like my hands are always busy doing so many other things that I don't have time to execute some of these things, and so that's a little bit unfortunate, I guess, as far as the controls go. But I've been seeing people say that it's, you know, sluggish, and I think the kicks are a little sluggish. I'll give them, the kicks are coming out a bit slower than they probably should, but I don't think that the punches or like this part of the stand-up is sluggish. I think it's fairly responsive, and it definitely lets me execute more realistic strategies and things that I'm trying to, you know, do than the past games where you had to like fucking stick yourself in the ground to throw a combo. One thing they did kind of fuck up, in my opinion, is the submission system. I didn't have an issue with the past one. I thought that last one was actually good, and I liked it very much, and it's pretty much the same, but it's like so slow to escape. Like, I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, like, I don't know, it was really, really hard to escape, and I've been caught twice in submissions where, like, I felt like I had no opportunity to get out. Like, they weren't thrown from, you know, serious advantages in stamina. They weren't, like, they just happened, and there was nothing I could do, and I mean, maybe that puts an emphasis on blocking the submission transition rather than escaping the submission itself, which is fine, but there was definitely, I was in side control, and they went for an arm triangle, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any animation that made it clear what the fuck they were doing, or that they were doing almost anything at all. So, in some ways, I think that the video game is not properly designed, and not in a way, I mean, that like they didn't do it right, but it's just not a good medium to express the weight shift or grip fighting of a submission to the point where I can realistically be expected to block it every single time before it happens. So, especially with all the buttons you have to be mindful of, and all the things you have to be mindful of, where, you know, in real life it's one thing to defend an armbar, like you feel your arm being pulled on or whatever. You don't have to think about, like, wait, do I press right stick and then left, or like, do I hold R2 with the right stick going left or right? Like, you just instinctively can defend your arm, whereas in the game it's not that easy. So I think that escaping should be a little bit quicker. You know, the actual filling of the meters should be quicker. That being said, like, it shouldn't be necessarily easy to escape, but it should be not as difficult as it has seemed to be, I guess, as I'd put it. It seemed not difficult, but impossible. Like, there was nothing I could have done to alter the situation. It was just slow, and that was it. Like, there was never a time where the meter was going to fill before his next transition. And one of them was a triangle to an armbar from close guard, and that was impossible. Like, there was nothing I could have done for that. And so I was a little bit flustered by the way that worked, because in the past game, I was okay with it, and I got a fair amount of submissions on people, and it was satisfying to get. And in this game, I just don't feel like trying them right now, because it feels like such a dick move. Like, there's a different fight I did with Ferguson versus Khabib, and the Khabib kept shooting in, and I kept sprawling out to Turtle. And I could have, you know, Darsed him or Anacondaed him every time, but I just didn't. And eventually, like, he stood up with no stamina, and I threw one hook, and he just went to sleep. And it was only like a minute and a half fight, but he did shoot in quite a lot for some reason. But yeah, so I think this is in a pretty good spot. There's some new animations, like if you defend a takedown up against the fence, you kind of, you know, get caught in a single leg up against the fence. That one was cool, I saw. There's some new takedown animations off of catching kicks, which were pretty cool. Overall, I think they did a good job, you know, updating some things. I don't know why the KOs are so back to the first game sort of situation. Like, they look, some of them look just fucking awful. I don't really know why that is. Some of them don't, and then some of them do, and I don't know what is... Like, earlier I got a KO off of a jab, and, like, the guy just, like, stopped, and then his whole body, like, straightened up, and then he crumpled to his knees, and it looked like in a bad, like, parody movie where, like, someone gets shot, and they, like, grab their chest and slowly, like, fall to their knees, and then fall face first or something. It looked like that, but, like, it shouldn't have looked like that. But yeah, overall, fuck, I almost made it without coughing too much more. Overall, I think we're in a good spot. I'll have more thoughts throughout the beta. But if you're playing it out there, what do you think? I know a lot of people are being negative right now, but I think this is a major improvement in the striking department because it was so fucking stagnant before, and I can actually now kind of put most of the combinations I'm thinking of into practice because I'm not being, you know, inhibited by the movement and the inability to throw strikes while circling or, you know, different things like that. So I'm happy, but let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.